Sometimes the universe works in mysterious ways, Riley. I think you and I have done a day of videos together just two times in the last 2 weeks, but both times we've talked Marcis Ponder, the big fella, the strongest man in prep basketball, and it's our second video on the channel about Ponder because he has announced his final 7 schools through Tipton Edits. Shout out to Joe Tipton. The final 7 schools that Ponder is considering are Cincinnati, Florida State, Illinois, Indiana, Miami, Providence, and Texas. If you missed Riley and I's first video a couple weeks ago, we love this kid, 7 foot, 4-star center in the class of 2026. But I mean, the real story here is that he is enormously huge from a strength perspective. I mean, you would look at him and almost at first glance, there are some like DJ Burns vibes, except he's 7 feet tall and is gonna overpower you from brute strength, Kofi Coburn style. He says he watches Shaq. So I remain an enormous fan of this kid. I was unaware that Ponder was close to trimming his list, but here we are. His final 7 schools are here. And if you want full quotes from him on each of these schools, you can subscribe to On3 and read the update that Joe Tipton put out. We are here to discuss some takeaways from Ponder's final 7. Riley, I'll throw it to you now. What's your reaction to this list?
So it does seem like it's Illinois or Indiana's to lose, just judging the caliber of schools that have made the final cut. He's a player that, as I watched him and read about him, it wasn't just the size, the strength, the ability to finish above the rim, the defense, or excuse me, or I guess more so the shot blocking than, he's probably not going to be guarding guys on the perimeter, but still the shot blocking and space eating down low would be valuable. It also seemed like coaches, scouts agree he's in pretty good shape. There's not a ton of body fat there. Already pretty chiseled despite, being late into his high school career. And I kind of expected some bigger names to get involved, not necessarily blue bloods, but it's weird to not see like an Alabama or an Auburn or a Florida or an up and coming SEC school, or maybe even a team like Mizzou that we know has been sort of rallying the troops in terms of NIL to put together better resources, better NIL packages for their recruits. You're seeing that play out with a guy like Jason Crow or Tony Bryant, who they're high on. Like, that's the type of school that I was expecting, maybe if not the biggest names out there, at least the ones who are starting to invest more in basketball and have the resources to go after high level recruits. So I think if you're an Illinois or an Indiana fan, you got to be thrilled by this list. You're looking at this thinking, all I got to do is beat Luke Laux at Florida State. All I got to do is beat Jay Lucas. Like, he hasn't done anything at Miami. All I got to do is beat Kim English, who might not have a job this time next year. Like, you're sitting pretty if you're at one of those two schools.
Yeah, not only do I think they're the best basketball program schools on this list right now and best coaches on this list in theory, DeVries kind of still has to prove it. He's not that far removed from everybody else. But like Brad Underwood should be licking his chops, I think, looking at this list of like if there's ever been a winnable list for a top 70 kid in the country that fits your system perfectly, I think this is it for Brad Underwood. There are some interesting quotes here as we go through it because if there was one school that's not one of those two Big Ten schools, I think is a factor here. It's probably Miami because they are his home team. And he says as such in this interview, he says he grew up 15 minutes from campus. He's been on a few unofficial visits. I think the thing to navigate there is the new coaching staff because it sounds like all of his previous visits were with Coach Larinaga. So he's going to have to rebuild those ties. But I mean, you think Jay Lucas from Duke, obviously his strong suit has been recruiting. I feel like he'd probably be able to make up the ground there. It's interesting hearing him talk about his priorities. He says at the end of this, in my honest opinion, there's not much different between all these schools. Facilities, school life are pretty much the same at the majority of high majors. What makes the difference are the people running the program. And then this is my favorite quote from a kid that I've heard this year. I'm the ultimate competitor. I feel like I have the highest motor in the country. I'm looking for a situation where I'm going to play as a freshman and also develop. First off, he's right. You watch the film on him, he does have a higher motor than anyone I've seen. Second off, that's terrifying because someone his height and weight and strength also having the highest motor in the country is like an unstoppable force. But the important part of that quote, I'm looking for a situation where I'm going to play as a freshman and develop. That's the one thing, the only thing in this that scares me if I'm an Illinois fan.
Mm.
Because in theory, Tomislav Ivisic would be back for his senior season the same year that Ponder would be arriving to Illinois. Today's video is sponsored by LabCorp On Demand. Card, do you take care of yourself?
I try my best to, yeah.
Like not just treat yourself to expensive meals, but like you go to the doctor and things like that?
No, I just take care of myself. There's no need to go to the doctor unless I'm not taking care of myself, right?
Are you afraid of the doctor, Card?
Just a little bit. I mean, if nothing's wrong, why would I go there?
Listen, I'm the same way, and so are millions of men across America. But that's why LabCorp On Demand is helping millions of people like us. With their men's health test, you can get a comprehensive look at your hormone levels, your total testosterone, and you don't even have to go to the doctor. It's easy, and you get the results the next day.
Testosterone, is that a big thing?
It's a really important thing, Cart. Sometimes you can feel off without even knowing something's wrong. But LabCorp On Demand wants to keep you healthy and wants to make it as easy as possible. Right now, you can get 20% off your men's health test by visiting our sponsor at tryelco.com/sleepersmedia. It's simple, affordable, and honestly, it's empowering to know that you're healthy and have this info about your body.
Didn't know that testosterone did all those things. I'm gonna have to take the guesswork out of this and go get my health checked out today using LabCorp On Demand.
Visich has 2 more years of eligibility.
Visage has 2 more years of eligibility, my friend.
I know you are the Big Ten guy. I know you're a bit of an Illini Illuminati, so to speak. I gotta fact check you on this.
It's true. Jim Root's roster sheet confirms both of
Wow.
Visages have 2 more years of eligibility.
How does he still have 2 years of eligibility left? I feel like he played ABA ball for forever, and usually those guys are getting like 1 to 2 years total. I didn't expect him to have three. That is a good point. When you look at this past year, do you think Marez Johnson's role and the fact that, him being Big T's backup, is that enough to sway Marcis Ponder? Because I think there's still substantial minutes to be had backing him up. And maybe you could run some jumbo lineups with the Visage at the 4 and Ponder at the 5 because of Visage's passing and his playmaking and the jump shot. I know he's not really going to put the ball on the deck if you're wanting spacing in that sense, but that could be a sell. To me, part of me just wants him to go to Illinois because of the content it will provide for this channel. I think like he will be an instant sleeper's favorite, and I wish he would factor that into his decision. We're gonna love him regardless of where he goes because of the sound clips. But when you factor in just his grasp for how to give you a good quote when he's mic'd up or when he's in interviews, like you watch the clips of him mic'd up in games, it's like this dude is there to put on a show, and I love that. And I think you mix that with the Illinois lore would be great content. But yeah, what are your thoughts in terms of can you get him to buy into that Morez role for a year and hopefully retain him for year two?
I think you're right that like there is a world you could even play him and Tom together or Big Z, I guess, because of how those guys can shoot and step outside. They are very perimeter oriented, and Ponder is very interior oriented. But I don't know. I think it's just going to be a difficult sell for Brad Underwood, in all honesty. But he's good enough as a recruiter, and Orlando Antigua gets a name drop in this interview, so they have the staff to like, convince a kid that a situation that might not be exactly what he's looking for is.
Mhm.
What's working in Illinois' favor is the fact that Kofi Coburn played there, and they finally found a kid that wants to be Kofi. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the joke because Merez left because he flatly said, I don't want to be Kofi Coburn, which is a crazy quote on its own. But he says in this interview with Tipton, Illinois has traditionally had bigs like me. That's one for one. They're telling him he's the next Kofi. The
Mhm.
problem is that when Kofi was a freshman, he came in and was the centerpiece immediately, and that even came at the expense of Georgi Basanishvili. It's gonna be a difficult sell to me because Tom Ivisic is supposed to be the best player on this team. He's probably going to be one of the 3 or 4 best bigs in the country if all hits this year. You're not just going to like go away from that for the 7 foot freshman center. So I don't know. They're going to have to pitch him on it. But to me, it's funny using Merez as the example because how anti Kofi Merez was. I think it's going to be hard to pitch a kid to be happy in the role Merez was unhappy on, even if he is bought in on being Kofi. But we'll see. I don't know. But the fact that he wants to play right away does make me think Indiana is lurking here because there's nothing in the Indiana front court blocking Ponder from showing up and starting day one.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. Regarding Indiana, I would honestly, you kind of sold me on Miami, just giving the overview of the connection there with the trips he's made, and even thinking about the types of bigs that Lucas recruited to Duke. When you look at Kama Malawach, you look at Derek Lively. Under the Shire era, they've had those big 7-footers. They just stick in the paint and let them block a ton of shots and catch lobs, and they star in that role. Now, I don't think Ponder is the same level of prospect as Lively or Malawach. He doesn't have this. Well, I was about to say he doesn't have the size as Malawach. I mean, few do, but I think when you factor in the strength, it kind of makes up for not having like the insane wingspan and standing reach and everything. Lively was just an otherworldly 10 out of 10, 100 percentile athlete to go with like a 7'7" wingspan, to where I don't see him being an impact guy like that. But there's with both of those guys being lottery picks, there's a clear pitch that Lucas can use for Ponder that I think could be interesting. With Indiana, the role is a little bit harder for me to envision. I think there's the clear path to minutes, which maybe if you're DeVries, you sell him on this. But I think if DeVries is more so with the skilled bigs, even if he has to sacrifice some size and athleticism down low, he wants the bigs you can play through, who can pass, who can make reads, all of that. Where maybe Ponder can get there, but I just think right now with Ponder, you want him catching lobs. Maybe you get him a post touch every once in a while, let him drop step and yam on somebody. But yeah, I think of his game a lot more like that right now, which maybe he's capable of developing into a more modern skill set. But yeah, I think the sell seems a little bit easier in terms of roles with both Illinois and Miami for this is what you're good at. This is probably still your best path to the NBA, and we can help you get there.
Yeah. Yep. Totally agree. And for the record, I believe his name is Marcis, not Marcus, which we were talking about before clicking record. Stock up in my mind if you pronounce it Marcis Ponder. This video is brought to you by NBA 2K Labs or maybe college football labs because the people behind 2K Labs have just built something awesome. CFBLabs.com has everything you need to play college football 26 even better. Cart, you've been playing the game, right?
I have been, but I'm behind the eight ball, Gregory. There's a lot of people out there who got a little bit of edge on me, but the good folks over at 2K Labs got me covered. They got the playbooks I need, the plays, the head-to-head coaches, knowing some teams. Obviously, way too many college football teams. I need the inside edge here, and they got all different types of things to help me get that edge.
Yeah, I jumped in and started playing Road to Glory over the weekend, and I ended up like a 2-star recruit that did not get one snap in season one because I chose the wrong school with the wrong roster that was way too loaded. Had I known that CFBLabs.com exists, I would have made a much more wise decision in my Road to Glory mode. They've got teams, playbooks, coaches, team comparison tools. You can literally see every single play in the game, every player in the game, their rating, what they're good at, all in one consolidated place online to help you make the right choices and win more games in college football 26. CFBLabs.com. Go check it out.